I've talked a lot about children and childism on this channel, but I haven't talked enough about ageism, or discrimination against the elderly. Up until now, this channel has focused on the extensive damage dogs do to society, to humans, to wild animals, to the environment. Dogs destroy our relationships. They breed violence between neighbors and other members of the community. They transmit diseases. They ruin our health with their noise pollution. They sexually harass and assault us. They pollute our water. They rob us of precious resources such as time, energy, affection, money, and food. And they kill our grass and trees, and of course, they injure, disfigure, and kill us by attacking us. Contrary to myths that are perpetuated by dog worshippers, most attacks are unprovoked and carried out by dogs that were raised in loving homes. I have made many videos about all of these topics. Children and the elderly are the most likely to be seriously injured and killed in dog attacks. I'm going to put some links in the description for you to check out. At least 77 people every day in the United States alone are undergoing reconstructive surgery due to dog attacks. Most of these people are children and the elderly. These numbers are from 2015, and because there are more dogs in America today, the true number is likely to be a lot higher. You can view a list of people who were killed in dog attacks and view their ages. You'll see that most of these victims were either young or old. Why is this the case? Because children and the elderly are easy prey. Dogs are predators. Now, it doesn't matter how you raise the dog, it has nothing to do with the owner. Dogs retain the instincts of their wild ancestors, and these instincts can become triggered at any time. All dogs possess a prey drive. They have predatory instincts. Now, this prey drive is stronger in some breeds and weaker in other breeds, but they all have it. It's what causes them to chase after balls and squirrels. When a predator sees a prey animal that is small and weak, that smaller, weaker animal becomes the dog's preferred target because it is easier to take down. When children make erratic movements and high-pitched noises, they simulate the sights and sounds that prey animals make when they are injured. And this triggers the predatory instincts in dogs with higher prey drives and causes them to launch unprovoked attacks. When dogs see elderly people, they likewise see an easy target. They see that the elderly person is weak and vulnerable, and this can trigger their predatory instincts. Because the weak and the vulnerable are what predators go after. This is the law of nature. And because of their weakness and frailty, older people are not as able to defend themselves against dog attacks effectively. They cannot fight back against a dog as effectively as a younger adult. Same as with children, they are unable to successfully fend off dog attacks and fight back against the dog. They cannot defend themselves as effectively as older people because of their small size and their weakness. As much as humans try to humanize dogs, they are not human. They will never be human. They are predators. They are instinct-driven, bloodthirsty, remorseless predators. Why are these attacks allowed to continue? Why do we as a society do nothing to stop this? I think the answer is twofold. A, childism, and B, ageism. I made a video about childism. Childism is defined as prejudice and or discrimination against the young. Please watch it if you haven't already. It takes the form of people blaming children for dog attacks. Oh, the child must have provoked the dog. When in most cases the child is riding their bike, playing in their yard, playing with their friends, walking to school, getting off the school bus, paying no attention to the dog. Yet, as a society, we blame children. Ageism is something we're going to talk about today. It is something that is so prevalent in our society. And shockingly, like childism, it is socially acceptable to be ageist. This needs to change. We've been seeing a lot of examples of ageism in the news recently, with the lockdown protests, with the signs people were holding up at these protests that read, "Sacrifice the weak," with politicians such as the Lieutenant Governor of Texas, Dan Patrick, saying that grandparents would be willing to die to save the economy for their grandchildren. Subsequently, an article was written by Skylar Baker Jordan and published on the Independent website entitled, "Thanks, Mr. President, but I asked my grandparents and they don't want to die for your economy." This is a quote from that article. "They need me, but I need them more. They practically raised me, put me through college, have loved and supported me through abusive relationships and depression and poverty. They have done the same for my father and my aunt, my cousins, and countless other relations. I want to give them all the love and support I can, not, as Trump and Patrick would have me give them, a deadly virus. My grandparents are the backbone of our family. The same is true for families across this nation, where grandparents offer love, support, and guidance, playing central roles in family life. They are not old pack mules to be put out to pasture. What Dan Patrick and Donald Trump are suggesting is heartless and cruel. If either of them wants to catch coronavirus, so be it. Best of luck, fellas. I, however, have no interest in sacrificing Mama and Papa at the altar of late capitalism." This article reflects the sentiment of many Americans. It reflects the sentiment of most people around the world who are absolutely shocked by this sickening and unabashed display of ageism. The selfish, despicable people protesting the lockdown, suggesting we put elderly and other vulnerable people at risk by denying science and flouting social distancing rules, ought to be imprisoned. Society doesn't need people like this. It amazes me how we tolerate their presence and allow them to stage these reprehensible protests. In modern cultures outside of contemporary Western culture, elders traditionally hold crucial roles in society. They are respected and viewed as essential members of the community, the backbones of the community. They impart tradition, knowledge, culture, values, and lessons. In contemporary Western culture, elders are viewed as incompetent and incapable. This is evidenced by the way we talk to them, with condescending, high-pitched voices. We use a weird type of very disrespectful baby talk when addressing seniors, as if they are deaf or dumb when they're not. Using baby talk with seniors is insulting. In this article, they refer to elder speak, which is characterized by a slow speech rate, exaggerated intonation, elevated pitch and volume, the intentional use of simple vocabulary and reduced grammatical complexity, changes in affect, pronoun substitutions, such as saying "how are we today" instead of "how are you," diminutives, and repetition. And the bottom line is, elderly people, especially those with cognitive issues, really don't respond well to it. Well, duh. Who wants to be spoken to that way? Elder speak is part of our cultural disrespect for the older members of society. We devalue people who are no longer productive in the capitalistic sense of the word. They think that it's showing that they care and that it will improve communication, but it's not, and it won't. The article goes on to mention how doctors who speak to the caregiver and act like the elderly patient isn't even in the room could use some re-education as well. Taking it one step further, maybe, it says, we are due for a cultural change in how we see and regard those in their 60s and 70s. Well, I say yes, 60s, 70s, and beyond. What is behind ageism? Why do we have this awful attitude towards the elderly? In trying to find the answer, I stumbled across this Wikipedia page that states fear of death and fear of disability and dependence are major causes of ageism. Avoiding, segregating, and rejecting older people are coping mechanisms that allow people to avoid thinking about their own mortality. Because we fear death, we put elders into old age homes. We want them out of sight, out of mind. And that's despicable. The Wikipedia article goes on to state, the reason for the myth of declining capabilities of older people could be that many cultural representations have long histories reproducing images of the life cycle as a mountain where we peak in middle age and then decline. Well, this image is wrong, and it is offensive. Older people, even if frail and unable to work, have tremendous value and contribute in so many important ways to society. I will link you to this BBC News article about Captain Tom Moore, a World War II veteran who recently raised £32 million for the NHS, the National Health Service in the UK, walking laps of his garden. This man just recently celebrated 100 years on this earth, and he's doing this amazing thing, and he's so inspirational. But most elders, let's face it, they're not doing these extraordinary things, but those elders still have tremendous value. Many older people work. I found this article that states more and more Americans are working well past retirement age. For some, it's a matter of necessity. For others, it's a matter of choice, and the distinction is class-based. About 19% of Americans aged 65 and older are now in the workforce, up from about 12% in 1996. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics projects that by 2026, nearly 22% of people 65 and older will be working, with those 75 and older experiencing the fastest growth rate. This is unbelievable to me. These people should be allowed to rest. Man, it's just mind-boggling, but the fact that they have to go work, that it's a necessity, is just reprehensible. These people have worked their entire lives and should be allowed to rest. Anyway, I'm going to get to that a bit later. But many elders, if they are not working, volunteer. They do very important jobs. Many of them babysit their grandchildren to allow the grandchildren's parents to work. Many sell their wares at farmers markets or online. A lot of them are very busy and they're working, even though they might not be part of the workforce. But the main point I want to make in this video is that a person's worth is not determined by whether or not they are employable or earning money. It pains me that I have to say that. It pains me that I need to make this video, just like it pained me when I had to make my video explaining that children are worth more than dogs. It should go without saying. It should be self-evident. These elders worked hard and they deserve a rest. Even if their only job in life was being a homemaker and supporting their husbands while raising the next generation of workers, they still worked very hard and made a very important contribution to society. They have spent their lives working hard, and they deserve to be looked after and pampered and thanked for all they have done. What the hell is wrong with us that we think we can discard them like a used rag once they are no longer employable? What a disgusting attitude. We shouldn't care if they are no longer employable. It doesn't matter. Even if they don't have anything left to contribute due to dementia, Alzheimer's, or disease, whatever, we should still respect and cherish them for all they have done. Elders have a tremendous amount of value because they contribute so much, even if it is not to the economy. They impart wisdom in person and online. I have elders that leave the most fantastic comments on my videos. Recently, I discovered this YouTuber called The Kiffness. He's a South African musician, a very talented guy, and he uploaded a video of himself singing a parody of a Cat Stevens song called Father and Son with his father. And it's about the lockdown, and he's singing to his dad about how he is having a really hard time coping with the lockdown. And his father sings to him and gives him advice, offers him a perspective that only older people can have because of their life experience and their advanced years. The father exudes this calm, relaxed, beautiful energy, just so laid back, and is telling his son to relax. Eat your bananas, have a beer, watch some TV, let your girl take care of you, let your girl calm you down. Just look at me, my beer is cold and I'm happy. I am very fortunate that I have some elderly people in my life today who, because of their age, are able to offer me the same advice, this different perspective on life. They have lived through so much and have explained to me that when they were younger, they used to get so wound up and stressed out about things that they seriously do not care about today. They used to care about what people thought about them. They don't care about that anymore. I have learned that from these older people, to not care what people think. And as a result of their advice and their knowledge and their guidance, I have a much better quality of life today. I am wiser. Whenever I feel stressed, I now envision this older South African man, and I imagine him telling me to relax and take it easy. And his calming energy is my panacea. I wouldn't have that if it weren't for these elderly people. They offer us appreciation for the luxuries and the quality of life we now enjoy by telling stories of the past and what they had to endure, washing clothes by hand. Anyway, they provide a connection to our history, a sense of having roots that stabilize us. They are a source of inspiration, and you can't put a price on these things. Where would we be as a society without these things? Well, probably where we are right now. Look at us. We don't see the value in what's truly valuable. We discard the elderly as defective, useless objects when they pass retirement age, and this is a travesty. I'm going to talk a little bit about my personal experience with older people. When I was young, like a child, I was kind of freaked out by older people. They kind of scared me a little bit. My grandparents were very kind, but my older relatives, they looked different. They had a lot of wrinkles and age spots, and they smelled a little funny, and I don't know, they were kind of creepy and kind of scary because of how they looked. And honestly, as a older child and as a teenager, I wasn't all that interested in hanging out with my grandparents. There were other places I would have rather been, other people I would have rather been with, people I could relate to better, people my own age. Like all young people, I was very selfish and self-centered. My mind was occupied with very selfish things like boys and drama and school and stuff. And, you know, I didn't care too much about older people. I just didn't give them that much thought. I would visit my older relatives, we would share meals together and whatever, but that was about the extent of it. I did not appreciate them. Now, as I got older, my perspective changed, because that's what happens when you age. I am middle-aged now. I'm 46 years old. And my opinion of older people, the way I see them, has changed dramatically. Now, this is probably because I'm getting gray hairs, I'm getting wrinkles, and it's easier for me now to relate to older people. They're not as scary anymore to me. They're not as foreign. And yeah. Now, this is going to happen to you too. If you are a young person, you probably think you are invincible. You probably don't think too much about the fact that you're going to get old if you don't kill yourself. Because, as I discussed in previous videos, suicide rates are skyrocketing across the world now. In the USA, suicide is now the second leading cause of death among adolescents aged 15 to 19 years. So, if you're lucky enough to not kill yourself, the suicide rate among people ages 10 to 24 years old climbed 56% between 2007 and 2017, according to a report from the CDC. This is extremely depressing and shocking, and part of the reason I decided to create this YouTube channel. This rise in the suicide rate among young people coincides with the rise of dog worship, as I've discussed in previous videos. But let's say you survive childhood, you survive adolescence, you're going to get old, and your perspective will change. I wish I had taken the opportunity, when I had the opportunity, to ask my older relatives questions and listen to their stories. My grandparents are all dead now, and their stories are gone with them, and it makes me feel very sad, because only now do I fully appreciate how amazing they were. I remember my grandmother telling me a story when I was very young. It's a very vague memory. She spoke about a soldier back in Ukraine, where she was born, when she was a teenager. So she was born in 1902, so this would have been during the First World War. And she recalled a soldier. I remember her talking about the soldier that she was smitten with. Now, I mentioned in one of my recent videos that I've become very interested in the world wars, and I was trying to remember more about what she was telling me, and I was curious, like, which army did he fight for, and this and that. And luckily, I still have my brother, who is going to be 60 years old soon. So I don't know if I can call him an elder. He's getting there. He's older. So, I'm lucky to have him, because he remembers the story that I forgot. Because he's older, he remembers a lot of things that happened in our family and that were said and in our family that I forget. So I can ask him questions. I should mention, both my parents are deceased. And this is, what I'm talking about. He has value just in that, just the fact that he can remember things, that I don't remember. That gives him worth and value. It makes him special. He's a source of knowledge. Anyways, he explained to me that there were 2 or 3 soldiers. He doesn't remember exactly, but there were more than one. And they came to her house because they were hungry. And they asked her father if they had any food to share. And my great-grandfather invited them into their home, and they fed these soldiers, and they had a very, very nice visit. Apparently it was very special to my grandmother. She was in awe of them, and she looked up to them, and she was infatuated with one of them, who apparently was very, very handsome, and who gave her a ring. And so they had this nice visit, and as the soldiers walked off their village property after thanking my great-grandfather for his hospitality, my grandmother watched these soldiers get shot and killed. And this is what prompted my great-grandfather to send her over to Canada. He bought a ticket, he put her on a boat, and said goodbye. Like, you're going to Canada? You're going to have a better life over there? See you later. Now, these were pre-internet days. People didn't have the internet. They didn't have Skype or FaceTime. She never saw her family again. I can't imagine what that must have been like. I believe they wrote letters, but the letters would take months to get back and forth. And I mean, could you imagine? Could you imagine a 21-year-old woman getting onto a ship by herself? She had to sail to the UK, from the UK sail to Canada. The voyage took a month, I'm guessing, about that. And she didn't speak a word of English or French. Like, whenever I think about this, it just fills me with awe and inspiration. And I wish that she was still alive, or that I had taken the opportunity to ask more questions. Like, there's so much I wish I could ask her. But whenever I'm feeling like I'm overwhelmed, or I feel like I can't do something because it's too difficult, I think about my ancestors, and it gives me strength. I think, well, if they got through that, well, I can do this. Or I think about the stories my father told me about his grandparents and how they had to clear acres of land in northern Canada. They had no machinery. They had to cut down trees and survive frigid winters without electricity, without running water, without a hospital. What? How did they do this? This is amazing. I remember my grandmother talking about giving birth in a log cabin in northern Canada in the winter, and it was so cold that her hair froze to the wall. I remember her telling me that. Now, I would love to ask more questions about that, because now that I'm older, I have more of an interest in their stories, which are unfortunately lost now with them. But I am very fortunate to have some wonderful, dear, elderly friends in my life today. And I am absolutely delighted by their stories. I could listen to them talk forever. I love to ask them questions. I love learning from them because they have so much knowledge to share, so much life experience. They've been through so much. They have seen so much. And they have the most interesting and funny stories to tell that uplift me. You know, elders are so special. Their stories inspire us. They support and guide us. They are treasures. They are wonders to behold. I look at them today and I'm no longer afraid of their wrinkles and their age spots and their white hair, I look at them and I think they have been through so much, it's amazing. They're like an antique, a vintage car, they're from a different time. And that's what makes them so special and valuable. I look at them and I see in their wrinkles and in their age spots all they've been through, all they have seen, all their horrors, all their joys, all they have learned from their parents and their grandparents, all of that history, all of that wisdom. It's so vast, and it's all wrapped up under their white hair and shining out of their eyes. When I look at them, I see treasure troves. I see a wealth of knowledge and experience that is absolutely priceless. These people are precious, and we ought to cherish them, whether they are able to work or not. We need to face our fear of death head on. We need to face our fear of disability and dependence head on, and we need to quit running away from our fears like the cowards we are. Elderly people deserve so much better. I hope this video will cause you to pause and think about your perception of elderly people and reevaluate their worth. If you are young, I hope that my story will inspire you to appreciate your grandparents or any other elderly people in your life while you still can. A day will come when you will wish they were still alive to teach you that special recipe or share that technique or skill with you. You will wish they had told you more stories. You will wish you had asked them more questions. One day, you will be curious about your family history, and you will wonder about your great-grandparents and your great-great-grandparents, which these elderly folks might remember and be able to tell you about. Ask them questions while you still can. Listen to their stories. Let them share their knowledge and experience with you. Ask them as many questions as you can think of, because one day you will think of something you wish you had asked them, but didn't. They have so much to give to you that will enrich your life in so many ways that you can't even imagine. Through them, you will become wiser. Your roots will grow deeper, and this connection to the past and to your ancestors will strengthen, inspire, and uplift you. Let these beautiful old people share their precious gifts with you, and in return, give what you can to them. Give them your ear. Give them your time and your affection. Give them a helping hand. Give them the respect they have earned. Let them know how valuable they are. Let them know their lives are not expendable, and that they have just as much worth as any other human being. They don't deserve to be killed for capitalism. They don't deserve to be killed by dogs. Please call out ageism wherever you see it, and let people know you won't stand for it. I invite you to share your stories about elderly people. What have they taught you? In what ways have they contributed to your life? How much are they worth to you? Are you an elder? What is your personal experience with ageism? Do you feel discriminated against? And how do you cope with it? Is there anything you would like to say to younger people? The floor is yours. I look forward to your comments.